Allen.
You have to.
They always keep people.
You don't have any other receivers.
They keep people who don't want to be there. Hello, caller. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey guys, this is Connor. How are you guys doing?
Good, Connor. Good to hear you.
Connor Morrissette,
Thank you.
SB Live.
Yeah, good to hear from you guys.
Indeed, man. Things have been crazy. Full disclosure, Pete now has a vested interest in some high schools because of his younger siblings.
Okay.
Could you just kind of run down, how things have been going since the last time we talked, as far as this high school football timeline and things you've seen and encountered?
Sure. When we last talked, we were right in the middle of the pandemic, and it wasn't really looking great. So everything was at a standstill. Now we're seeing padded practice and games scheduled, and it all had to do with the Department of Public Health on, I believe, February 19th, adjusting their guidance. And what they said was if a county has 14 or below cases of COVID-19 per 100,000 people, the adjusted case rate, then you could start football practice February 26th. And so we've saw some teams in LA County and Orange County start the 26th, do 3 days, and then they could start padded practice after 3 days. This past week, everyone was cleared to go, every county in Southern California. So we saw some more teams begin in the Riverside County area, San Bernardino County, San Diego County. And the first games are scheduled for March 11th, 12th, and the 13th. And then it has to end in the southern section April 17th game. So the max you can get in is a 6-week season. A lot of teams are going to get in 5. Or a 6-game season. A lot of teams are going to get in 5. And then the LA City section, yesterday they announced that they're going to be playing 2, which was huge. Exactly when it's going to start, we're not sure, but they have until April 30th to play, so that'll allow them 2 extra weeks if it takes a little bit longer. So we're going to get a season. It's really late in the game, and I know it's March, but it's better than nothing, and I think a lot of people are really happy. So 6 games, no playoffs, that's it, but again, better than nothing.
It's true, and the signing day recently passed.
Yeah, so a lot of seniors are in trouble, sadly, but at least they get to play. But yeah, I feel bad for the fringe kids, and I'm going to do a story on Scorebook Live next week about a lot of kids who slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, and then there's cats who probably technically haven't played since either their freshman or sophomore year.
Kids who've been playing for a while.
And then like the JUCO bubble, I'm still doing some reporting into that, investigating. But the JUCO bubble, I don't even think people realize there's going to be like a 2.5-year backlog on JUCO players.
Oh, definitely. And what's crazy, there's the transfer portal, which hurt high school seniors because college coaches would rather take a 22-year-old junior senior over an 18-year-old freshman on the fringe. And then COVID killed seniors because everyone could come back if they wanted to. So you're seeing the ripple effect. High school seniors, I think there were, or I don't know the exact number, but there were way fewer scholarships given out to high school seniors this year, and it was because of the transfer portal, because fifth-year waivers with COVID, and we'll see the effects of that. JUCO kids will stick around, and it's just it's going to be a longer process for some of these kids, and hopefully if they can see it out, they'll be okay in the long run, but everyone's journey is going to be a little different. Some kids are really going to have to grind at JUCO now, and then try to go to a Division I school from there. So I feel bad for a lot of those kids who in a normal year maybe would get a scholarship, but we're seeing recruiting change, and then COVID really exacerbated the changes. So it's crazy out there. I do feel bad for a lot of those kids.
Yeah, indeed. And even you look at, like, let's say coaching vacancies and people moving around. So say some high school coaches want to go to a JUCO or whatever, vice versa. Pro players want to coach in their spare time. But if you're a coach and let's say you've had a couple losing seasons and they were probably going to, move on from you this year, what do you do? Or if you're an excellent coach and you have one bad year, all your players leave, like the situation at Narbonne, and there's new coaches like at Hawthorne and Lusinger and other places, well, is this year just a free pass for everybody? Or, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think so. Narbonne is pretty much started from scratch. So when you say free pass, they got a new coach. I'm not exactly sure what the roster looks like, but they're going to be playing. I'm like 99% sure that every principal will decide in the LA City section which schools can play and which won't. So if a principal just says, oh, we're not going to do it, they're not going to do it. So if they do it, they'll pretty much start from scratch because they've lost a lot of kids. And whatever the numbers will look like, they'll trot it out, and they'll have a varsity season, and hopefully they'll play in the Marine League with Carson, Banning, San Pedro, all the usual suspects. But I think what we're going to see is that the haves and the have-nots, it's going to kind of widen the gap. We'll see the haves still be really good, and then the have-nots suffer. And hopefully have-nots will play, but there will be some teams where they'll just say, you know, it's not going to happen this year, and we'll see next year. So I think that's definitely going to be an effect of this. The fact that a lot of teams can play doesn't mean they necessarily will.
And we talk a lot about the upperclassmen and the impact on recruiting in the college game, but you know, as Kenny mentioned, I have a younger brother who's entering at the freshman level, and I'm just curious, like, what do you think this unprecedented, shortened, fast season, you know, does for what sort of ripple effect does it have on the younger players?
Well, I think a lot of teams are going to be varsity only, and so the younger players, maybe they'll be up with the varsity, but they won't play, or maybe they'll earn a spot. I think what we'll see in this shortened season is expect the unexpected. And what I mean by that is no one really knows anything because coaches only have about 2 weeks to 3 weeks to prepare their guys. So maybe someone gets hurt or maybe someone shines in those 3 weeks, and then you do have a younger player play. So, and then maybe other areas they'll just be a ton of freshmen, and they'll say, listen, guys, just keep working out. We probably won't use you this year, and just hopefully you'll be on board next year. But I don't think that'll happen in too many places. I think what we'll see is you'll get everyone who wants to play, and then it's only 11 guys on the field, obviously, so they'll prioritize the seniors. They'll prioritize, like, those all-star freshman kids who they want to keep around. But if you're a younger player hoping to play JV or freshman, unless you're at a bigger school, I wouldn't hold my breath trying to play at the lower level. Maybe you'll get out there for some limited varsity snaps, but I think I was talking to the coach at Birmingham, Jim Rose, the other night, and he said, we're going to have a varsity season, and then our last game of the year, we're going to try to play El Camino Real. We're going to try to play 2 games, 1 JV, 1 varsity, and that was going to be the only JV game they had. So they're going to take everyone on varsity, but a lot of the kids won't play unless it's a blowout or something. And then they'll have that last game where they'll at least get something. So I think that's what it's going to look like in a lot of places, especially for the younger kids. But remember, the seniors got it the worst, so they deserve these games. If the freshmen, like, I don't know if you guys remember your freshman year or anything. Like, I played freshman soccer, and, you know, if I had to sacrifice that year, I'd be happy to do it. So I don't feel as bad for those guys. I do. The older you get, the worse I feel for you. Let me say that.
Yeah, I lost 80 pounds. I lost like almost 100 pounds my freshman year. So I'm kind of glad I had that. But also, like, that was 11 years ago, 10 years ago. So, like, you think about just the experience, like ticket sales, whatever, you know, money will be made at some of these high schools. And, like, I pass by Londo all the time. They still don't have a new weight room. Like, you look at all the problems that are kind of permeating, and just because Orange County, people could say, you know, we're kind of the most disruptive in terms of, like, not wearing a mask or outbreaks. And those high schools were kind of given somewhat of a leeway in terms of what they could and couldn't do. So how do you think, you know, the landscape of, let's say, OC football, is it going to look like its usual dominant fashion, or do you feel like because of the attrition and everything going on, it's going to look more of like a level playing field, at least on the field? It's where everybody's kind of going.
I think it goes back, Kenneth, to the haves and the have-nots. Like Corona Centennial Public School out there, I believe Riverside County, and they've been working out outside for, like, this whole time. They've taken the weight room outside. Matt Logan, their coach, has been there a million years. They prioritize football at that district. They're going to look great, and they dominate that league that they're in. They're going to look amazing. And then you have LAUSD kids who maybe if your coach is really involved, like you look at Banning, that I think Green Grajeda, does a great job there, and they were out and they were conditioning. They were at least doing something, so they never really had a weight room really or practice, but they were at least outside doing something. And then you have other schools in the LA City section where they haven't done anything for a year, no conditioning, no nothing. And so we'll see the effects that way, I think, for sure. I think it'll be a level playing field on the less talented level, but I think, again, the halves are going to be great. Monterey will be good. St. John Bosco will be good. Corona Centennial will be good. Those teams haven't really stopped working. It's the teams that have had these big breaks and the LAUSD schools that have started conditioning and then had to stop. I think that's where we'll see some issues, because Southern Section schools as well, some of them some programs haven't conditioned at all, and then others have. So I think it's all about what you've done in this past year, and some schools have been able to do more, some haven't. So again, I don't think we'll see any like crazy top line. Okay, like this team looks like the best team, and that was a real surprise. I think it's between Mater Dei, Bosco, and Servite, and one of them will look like the best team in the Trinity League, and then that'll be the best team in Southern California. I don't think we'll see any crazy upsets or anything, but you could see some smaller upsets for sure, just based on what teams have done and what they haven't done.
It's funny you mentioned that, because like my brother, he goes here to Lusinger, but I've actually been taking him out there, to the Corona area, because that's where I'm from, but that's also where I know everyone's working out. So it's funny that you bring that up. But I guess what I'm wondering is, like, even as a reporter, like with this unprecedented season, how do you keep score? Like, how do you keep records? Like, how do you reference that sort of stuff? Like, what do you make of that?
I think we'll definitely, like, you're going to be 5-1, 6-0, 4-2. Like, we'll definitely keep track records, but I think in a 6-game or a 5-game season, what you have to look at is quality wins, and I think reputations are going to matter. So, like, if Notre Dame plays Bishop Amat, and Bishop Amat has won the Mission League the last 2 years, undefeated in the Mission League the last 2 years, they might not be quite as good as they've been the past 2 years, but beating Bishop Amat is still a statement. And I think in a 6-game season, maybe in a regular year, if Bishop Amat has a down year, they go on, we see, okay, they're not the team that they used to be. But in a shortened season, if you beat them, okay, that's a big deal. And then if Servite is able to overcome, a Mater Dei or St. John Bosco, I think regardless of what happens, that's a huge result. So I think reputations will matter. And then at the end of the year, it'll be sad. We'll see, okay, this team maybe is a little bit better than we thought. This team's maybe a little bit worse than we thought, but there are no playoffs to see what everyone, will do in the postseason. And there are no, week 8, week 9, week 10. So you have a real small sample size. So I think reputation is going to matter a whole lot. And then maybe for the second half of the season, there are a couple teams who are a surprise 3-0, a surprise 4-0. Then we'll say, okay, we'll maybe put more stock in that. But it's definitely going to be tough, Peter. That's for sure. It's not going to be easy. I mean, the playoffs are the best because you can see what everyone really is about, and we won't have that this year. So
That's
I keep
crazy.
going back to reputation, but I think that is going to matter a lot.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, I know you've been, creating a lot of content around ratings and scholarships and things like that. So are you keeping track of players who might lose scholarships or might go down in level or anything like that? Is that something you have an eye on?
Yeah, I've spoken to a lot of seniors. I was at Loyola the other day. I spoke to a kid named Josh Long who had UNLV and a couple other schools, but just wasn't ready to commit. And then if he had committed, maybe he would have been able to sign. But then I talked to the Loyola coach, and he said, yeah, even if he had committed, it might have been tough because maybe Josh was like, okay, you're number 3 at our linebacker spot, and if we get another kid, we might have to dump you, which it's just a cold game. And I think we see a lot of non-committable offers out there where we'll offer you, we'd like you, and you can put it on social media, but realistically we wouldn't take you, which is crazy. But you see Arizona State give out 1 million offers. You see Oregon give out 1 million offers as an example. So I think, to use Josh as an example, I think the offers he got were real and legit. He's a great player. He had a great year last year, but he didn't commit early, and then a pandemic hits, and then schools get transfers, schools get kids who are going to now stay a 5th year, and there just isn't room for that kid. And I think we're seeing that all over the place. So I don't mean to single out Josh as a kid who got a raw deal when there are a bunch of kids just like him. But he's an example that springs to mind of a surefire D1 kid in a normal year, but between COVID and between